What's up YouTube? My name is Osu and today do I have a video for you. Dead by Daylight launched their new player test build today, Forged in the Fog, where we finally get to see the glory of a night brought into the realm of Dead by Daylight. In today's video, we are going to be going over the killer's lore, perks, and gameplay, but unlike my other in-depth videos, we'll be focusing solely on the killer for this video. But stay tuned, as we will have a separate video for our survivor here soon. Our killer is known as Tarhos Kovacs, the Knight. Now, Tarhos didn't remember much about his childhood, but what he did remember, he would chase his entire life. He remembered the cries and screams in the village. He remembered his mother forcing him to swallow a thick, black fluid like medicine. He remembered collapsing to the hard floor, only to awaken in a mass grave, buried under a crush of bodies with the sound of the village burning in his ears. He remembered pushing, pulling, and climbing to the top of the bloody mass, only to be seized by the death, destruction, and silence. The indifferent and impenetrable silence. A high-pitched whine suddenly sounded in his ears, and his skin began to prickle as he realized he was in the presence of something he couldn't possibly understand. And though he couldn't articulate what he was experiencing, he knew it wasn't pain, grief, or fear. It was something else, something closer to awe. As Tarhos tried to make sense of the moment, he didn't notice the men who approached him from behind. He didn't even react when they carried him off to a horse-drawn buggy and locked him up in a small wooden cage with other slaves. He just stared at the scene, mesmerized. And even as they rode away, telling him he was headed for Italy, Tarhos stared through the wooden cracks with eyes wide open and a heart wanting to understand what could not be understood. From that day on, Tarhos belonged to the Guardia Campania, where he trained under Kadir Hakam. There he learned to wield weapons, forge armor, and recite a code of chivalry to obediently serve those who would employ his services. As the years passed, Tarhos made few friends amongst the hostile and competitive mercenaries, but his skill, strength, and smarts attracted a small following who believed his courage brought them luck in battle, and that one day he would help them earn their collective freedom. 3 of his followers pledged their undying allegiance to Tarhos and came to be known as his faithful 3. His pack. Alejandro Santiago apprenticed with the Guardia Companion's armorer. Durkos Malachek showed an aptitude for stealth and silent kills. Sonder Ralt matched Tarhos in size and strength. His weapon of choice? A massive battle axe. As the Guardia Campania carried out campaigns in faraway lands, Tarhos dispatched countless enemies. Years passed, blood flowed, and yet all that killing still didn't bring Tarhos closer to what he had experienced in his village. Nevertheless, for his bravery in battle, Tarhos was granted knighthood and freedom. The Hungarian slave was now liberated, his brutality rewarded, though his heart still longed for something else, something he could not name or describe. Tired of taking orders from those he considered his inferiors, Tarhos left the Guardia Campania to strike out on his own. Their leader, however, refused to release his followers. Determined to raise enough gold to liberate his followers, Tarhos found employment with a wealthy Italian lord. Vittorio Toscano was the Duke of Portoscuro. He was also a scholar, a world traveler, and a collector of ancient knowledge that had been hidden by an unknown cabal of mystics. Tarhos joined Vittorio's latest expedition to find a fragment of a pillar from an ancient school lost to time. A stone Vittorio called the Lapis Paradisus, for he believed it held secrets to open a gateway into a perfect world beyond good and evil. The expedition searched Roman ruins in France and crossed the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain, where the path led to the catacombs beneath the Portuguese city of Sintra. The citizens there considered the catacombs sacred. Tarhos would have to kill the villagers guarding the entrance just to receive the stone. But not wanting to shed blood, Vittorio commanded Tarhos to find another way. But Tarhos, who had seen the most horrific acts committed under the guise of chivalry, refused to be dissuaded by pretenses of honor. He waited for Vittorio to ride back to camp. Then, with a mighty roar, he pushed forward, cutting a path of blood and gore into the darkness until he had the stone in his grasp. Upon returning to the town of Portoscuro, Tarhos imprisoned Vittorio in his own dungeon, demanding to know the meaning behind the symbols etched in the stone. When Vittorio refused to talk, Tarhos brutally tortured his friends and relatives and made horrific displays of their bodies in the streets. But nothing he did shook Vittorio's resolve to keep the secrets of the stone from Tarhos. Enraged, Tarhos seized control of Vittorio's riches and raised a small army. Within months, Tarhos fearlessly marched upon the Guardia Campania, decimating their barracks, freeing his followers, and cutting down his enemies like twigs, collecting their righteous heads for his growing displays of valor. In time, several lords in neighboring provinces believed Tarhos was the very embodiment of evil. They banded together to create a moral and virtuous army to purge evil from Portoscuro. Tarhos ignored their threats. He viewed the lords as a cowardly lot who cloaked their greed and ambition in laws, codes, and platitudes. Laws and codes and platitudes designed to hide from the very darkness Tarhos embraced and accepted without judgment. But with his enemies on the march, Tarhos headed towards the dungeons to give Vittorio the death he deserved. He refused to afford him even the slightest hope of rescue. With dark intentions, he entered the small prison, wound his way into the bowels of the earth, and pushed through a torch-lit corridor. He hesitated for a moment, realizing he would never learn Vittorio's knowledge and secrets. But neither would anyone else, and that was good enough for him. And so he unlocked and kicked open the dungeon door. 2 quick strides brought him into an empty, rat-infested chamber. Tarhos stood silent for a moment. Then a roar of indignation burst out of his lungs as the sounds of battle suddenly reverberated through the town. Instantly, he stumbled through the corridor, rushed up the twisting stairs, vaulted out the moonlit doorway, and charged through pools of gleaming blood and viscera, smashing and shattering his way through the enemy. The moral and virtuous lords rained flaming boulders and tree trunks across the town, bursting through homes, crushing villagers like worms, pounding the ground and igniting stacks of hay and piles of lumber into massive tongues of fire. Amidst the carnage and chaos, the pack found Tarhos, and back to back they became a whirlwind of death. Some believed their courage gave them luck. Others believed something otherworldly protected them. But whatever it was, they alone felled dozens of warriors as easily as stomping and crushing beetles. And as they butchered the enemy, Tarhos didn't notice the strange fog rising from the fallen corpses and clattering armor until he couldn't see 2 inches in front of him in any direction. Tarhos stumbled forward, groping in the thick fog like the dark fluid his mother forced down his throat all those years ago. His coordination and sense of direction was confused as he called out for his pack. How long he stumbled in the almost perfect darkness he did not know. But suddenly, the fog dissipated to reveal a phantasmal wasteland of rotting bodies, burning villages, and great, crumbling towers leaning drunkenly on the horizon. He stared in awe. A familiar, high-pitched whine sounded in his ears, and his skin began to prickle. He stood transfixed, realizing by some incredible chance his heart had found exactly what he had been searching for all his life. He didn't need Vittorio. He didn't need the stone. He had found his paradise. He had found the beauty and the horror. He had found the sublime. Now, the knight comes with 3 unique perks. His first perk is Nowhere to Hide. The machinations of the weak and craven draw your ire. Your anger forces survivors to reveal themselves. Whenever you damage a generator, reveal the aura of all survivors standing within 24 meters of your position for 5 seconds. Now, the key about this is you have to kick the generator. You can't use his guards, but this perk has a lot of potential with a lot of other builds, especially with the current gen kick meta that we have going on. Free aura reading while kicking generators. This perk has a lot of potential. His second perk is called Hex Face the Darkness. You make an example of one of your victims, forcing their allies to become awed by your power. Injuring a survivor by any means will light a dull totem, which activates that perk and hexes that survivor. While the hex is active, all other survivors outside your terror radius will scream intermittently, revealing their auras for 2 seconds each time. Other survivors can also see the aura of the cursed survivor for 8 seconds. When the survivor enters a dying state or becomes healthy, the hex totem becomes dull again and this perk deactivates. The perk is permanently disabled once its hex totem is cleansed. So basically what this means is that if you injure a survivor, the hex totem activates. If you down them, it deactivates. If you leave them alone, it'll stay active until he gets healed, which means you're constantly going to get information on where survivors are. But the catch is, this hex totem can only be cleansed when it is active, when it is a hex totem. If you injure somebody, you get information where they are, and then you down them, and the hex turns off, the survivors cannot cleanse that hex totem. So it kind of puts the survivors in a predicament of you have to find the totem while it's active, or you just have to cleanse all the totems. So most likely this is going to be a really good combination with Pentimento, because you can punish the survivors for not doing totems, or you can punish them for doing totems. And then his third perk is Hubris. You show no mercy, especially to those foolish enough to resist. Whenever you are stunned by a survivor, that survivor suffers from the exposed status effect for 20 seconds. Hubris has a cooldown of 20 seconds. Exposed survivors will be down by basic attacks even if uninjured. So basically, if you get stunned by a pallet, if you get stunned by blast mine, a flashlight save, anything that the game registers as a stun, that survivor will then be exposed. So I kind of see this as a big combination with Nemesis and maybe a few other perks like that that can really help you emphasize on that exposed status effect. And some killers, kind of like, you know, my Deathslinger, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to where you just eat a stun on purpose, use Spirit Fury Enduring, and then you're instantly downing a fully healthy survivor. All in all three of these perks are really good perks. And the killer himself, he is a 4.6 killer, very average speed, 32 meters, very average terror radius. So nothing super fancy there. But then we get into his power. The Guardia Companion. The Knight alone is a terrifying monster on the battlefield, but with his loyal guards, he's nearly unstoppable. Together, the Guardia Companion fights for their own freedom, killing anyone who gets in their way. So his special ability is the Guard Summon. Basically, you tap the power button, you can activate the Guard Summoning mode, and you can move your camera around to draw a patrol path. You can aim at a generator that's in progress, a downed pallet, or breakable wall, and you can tell your guardians to break them or damage the generator with the attack button. So when you activate this power, it will summon a guard to complete your required action on the selected object, whether that is patrolling, damaging, or breaking. There are 3 guards that are summoned in the same order each time. The Carnifex, who can break and damage objects faster, the Assassin, who moves faster during the hunt, and the Jailer, who patrols longer and is better at detection. Keep in mind, each of these 3 have their specific skill sets. They each have a different length of time they can appear before detecting someone. They each have a different detection range, and they each have a specific skill set that you need to know in order to fully maximize the potential of your guards. Now, the guard's special ability is the Hunt. While a guard is patrolling, he can spot and detect survivors. If a survivor is detected, the guard will move to their location and leave a standard on the ground, and they'll start hunting that survivor for a set amount of time. The survivor can escape a guard by unhooking another survivor, grabbing the standard, or surviving until the hunt timer ends. If the survivor is successfully attacked by the guard or the knight, the guard will disappear. When a guard downs a survivor, the knight receives a killer instinct notification. So basically, if you set up your patrol and one of the survivors comes within the detection range, they will commit to chasing that survivor for a limited amount of time. So this can allow you to pressure multiple areas of the map, or you can kind of funnel the survivor into a bad situation of either you're going to down them or the guard's going to down them. But you have to keep in mind, both the Carnifex and the Assassin are very good at the hunt. The Assassin is the fastest, but he has the smallest detection range. The Carnifex is pretty fast and has a pretty average detection range, whereas the Jailer has a huge detection range, but is not fast during the hunt. So you have to understand the 3 different variables that comes with these guards and make sure you're using them properly. But all in all, that's a pretty insane build. Dead by Daylight just made the 1v4 game into a 4v4. Let's go. Mother's Dwelling, the Red Forest. Kind of a big map for our knight here, but we played a few games against bots. We played 1 live game so far because PTP servers are painful. So basically, as you guys can see, we have an aura right there above his wrist that shows you which guard you'll be summoning. So like, for example, we're going to go ahead and summon this big guy. We'll let him patrol that area right there while we go check this gen. So he's already made contact with somebody. So he's going to start chasing them while we chase this Vittorio. Now, as you can see, there's a flag there. Oh, that canceled out his chase, but that kind of works for us. So survivors have 2 options. They can either outrun the timer when the guard is after him, or a fellow survivor can destroy the flag. And destroying the flag will make the guard despawn. There you go. Hang out there, Vittorio number 1. So you have 3. So now we have the sword. So this sword is the assassin. Now the assassin has a much smaller detection range, but he is much faster when he goes for survivors. So, oh, what happened there? Oh, we had a little desync there. That's okay. He's gonna make that pallet. He didn't throw it. That's fine. We're gonna trap him here if he stays here. There we go. Now, the jailer has a massive detection range. That's how the jailer was able to find him. Okay, so the jailer has a very big detection range, but he doesn't chase as long. So that's kind of what we saw there. I thought the jailer was going to go for him, but the jailer stopped. Now, I forgot what they call the big berserker, but that guy is really good at breaking pallets and things like that. Now, every time you activate your guards, it's kind of like Spirit. The survivors will vanish from you. You won't be able to see them. That was a good dead hard. He's slightly out of range for detection from the assassin, which is kind of sad. Now, the assassin doesn't last as long as the other ones. Oh, that was so lucky. That was so lucky. You know, the thing about this killer is he takes a lot of planning and a lot of strategy. So the jailer has a very high detection range. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of path this way. We'll see if the jailer can detect somebody. Oh, all right. The jailer actually injured someone. He teleported up onto the second floor. That's actually extremely interesting. Let's see if we can wrap him around and kind of put this guy in a bad position. So we kind of forced him into a spot of he was either going to get downed by our big berserker, or we could corner him or we can down him, which I think is where this killer is really going to get a lot of his strength from. Now, the other thing we can do, we know this gen had a lot of progress on it, so we can send the assassin over there, go ahead and kick that gen for us while we go check this gen. There's no progress on that gen, so that's okay. Now, someone just screamed because we injured somebody earlier, so we're getting value from our hex totem, where they're going to scream intermittently and reveal their location up until that hex totem is cleansed. Summon the jailer there. This guy's in a bad spot now. Oh, he dead-hearted the jailer. That was smooth. That was very well played. But sadly, that means his dead heart's wasted for us, and we're able to get the down. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is how each of these killers have different spawn rates, different detection rates, different times for being out in chase. So you really have to plan accordingly when using them. We're gonna go this way. We heard somebody running. That worked out quite well. It'd be great if he could detect somebody. Oh, they're right outside the range of detection. This guy was smart. He kind of held W away from that detection range, but now it's just a 1v1 with 2 guys on hook. Not looking too good for the survivors. I got a little mixed up. Where'd he go? They still haven't destroyed that hex totem, so we're getting a lot of value out of it right now. We're not going to hit him. He has off the record or borrowed time. And our hex totem is in a dead zone, so I don't really foresee the survivors finding it. That was a really good fake. Our power takes a little bit to recharge, but nothing like drastic. A little bit of moonwalking action. We got a hook right here. That's nice. All right, so they're screaming over there. So let's send our berserker on a path this way. And we see him. Oh, we just ran out of detection. Wow! That was actually pretty cool. So he was fully healed, keep that in mind. But because he tried to get out of the locker, our assassin was able to hit him. So we were able to hit him a second time for that instant down. Let's check this gen. It doesn't look like you can cancel a patrol once you've set up a patrol. I think they're on that gen over there, so we need to start heading that way. It looks like the longest recovery time is for the jailer, because the jailer has the longest running around time. Yeah, see, they're working on this gen. So we're going to go ahead and kick it. Our perk is going to give us aura reading, because he's within 24 meters. Get him with the good old double back mind game. Alright, so now he is dead. That gen is still regressing. So here's what I want to do. I want to summon my berserker, and I want him to kind of patrol this area around the gen. And we're going to go check this gen up here. Yeah, see, they're working on this one. Alright, now we should be able to see his aura again. Looks like he's hiding here in Shack. It's not a very long aura read, but if he stays here at Shack, we should be able to use the assassin to get another blow on him. So now he's trapped. Either we're gonna get him or the assassin will. This killer is going to be extremely strong at Killer Shack, especially if you just wrap around the edges of the shack, because their detection range will go all the way around. As well, this is the new shack. This is actually like a really nice looking shack. It's way more open. So now it's just us and this last survivor. Oh, he finished the door, or the gen. He probably went straight to that door. He's definitely going to be able to get that before we get there. Yeah, see, he's already on it. I don't think we'll be able to stop him. That was a good game. We didn't get the Mori that game, but that was really good. But all in all, I think this killer has a lot of strong potential. I think he's going to take a lot of strategy and a lot of planning when it comes to using his power effectively. But ultimately, I feel like, you know, as people start learning this killer, when you find those people that are going to pour the time and devotion into him and become the knight mains, those are going to be scary killers to go against. Guys who really understand the limits of the patrols and the detections and where to send them and cut off survivors, because survivors can see you drawing a path, and you want to keep that in mind. It's so easy for them to hold W because they know where you're drawing. So the strategy that comes into it, and even follows his lore of being a strategic killer, by far this is one of the most complex but interesting killers that DBD has come out with in a long time. But other than that, guys, if you like content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button, because I love doing new killer breakdowns and making a bunch of killer builds and content for Dead by Daylight. And like always, I'll see you out there in the fog.